Okay, shall we? Right. Anyone turns? Oh, welcome. I am Katie Marshall 4340 or at Madcat79 Scotii on Twitch. Do online petitions really work? Somewhat. As you can tell here, there is many waiting for the MPs and the government to debate. You have to get over 100,000 signatures on them for them to be debated in the chamber. That hasn't happened sometimes because they're too busy or they don't deem it necessary enough to have a debate about it in the House of Commons, which is completely ridiculous. Over 100,000 people in the electorate wanted you to discuss this topic. As you can tell by this here, there is lots of. Basil have been waiting for slightly over a month. So here are the rejected petitions. This is ones that have reached the 100,000, I believe, and the Parliament has decided, no, we will not debate this. It is not worth our while. There will be legislation coming on later in the Parliament, which is dubious at best. Hold a referendum regarding digital ID. Hold a referendum regarding digital ID to allow the people to directly vote on such a massively lifestyle-changing policy. Why was this petition rejected? There's already a petition about this issue. We cannot accept a new petition when we already have one about a very similar issue. Hmm. This must be the one they were talking about. Government to hold a referendum on digital ID. We want this government to hold a referendum on digital ID as this was not as they claim in their manifesto. Manifestos are the greatest work of fiction ever written. Most people do not believe half the stuff that is in manifestos, oddly enough. Clearly outlined what ID will could be used for and what will be put in place to stop this or future government abusing the system. Why was this petition rejected? There's already a petition about this issue. Fair enough. We only reject petitions that don't meet the petition standards. That is blatant lies. How do I know that? The Timms review is happening. Hundreds of thousands of people signed a petition to stop them changing our benefits system and attacking the most vulnerable again. Hence, you saw the chaos in the House of Commons when they were trying to push this through, and they were staring down the barrel of one of the biggest backbench rebellions. So they hastily retreated. And now the Timms review, Stephen Timms, I can't quite remember what cabinet position he has. He must be, well, it was then Liz Kendall, but now at McFadden, he must be one of the junior ministers in the Department for Work and Pensions. He is doing a review to see the best way forward for our benefit system. I do not know when his review will be getting published. Do not worry, your lass will be covering it. So that one is, where is it? Did I check it? This one was rejected, but as I see, the Tim's review is currently ongoing. Okay, I did put something into my Discord. Didn't find it one. This from the Guardian at the end of September, so roughly over. Yeah. More than 1.6 million people signed petition opposing Stammer's plans for digital ID. More than 1.6 million people have signed a petition opposing the introduction of digital ID cards after Keir Starmer announced plans to make them mandatory for people working in the UK by 2029, which is the end of the Parliament. The petition says no one should be forced to register with a state-controlled ID system. I agree. Which it describes as a step towards mass surveillance and digital control. Petitions that receive more than 100,000 signatures are considered, remember that word, considered for debate in Parliament. It is entirely in their wish to debate them. And as you can see, they've rejected a good few of them because we don't matter. They do not dance to our tune. We are not their piper. Someone else's. But there is little evidence of their success in shaping government policy. Plus, second time they've brought a government's tried to bring this back. Third, maybe. No one wants ID cards. We do not trust the government as it is, let alone with this kind of power over our lives. More than 6 million people signed one calling for Brexit to be reversed. Digital ID cards presented an enormous opportunity for the UK. Starmer said that this was back in September on Friday, as the government grappled with a civil liberties row over the proposals. So maybe this will make them think twice about actually going ahead with this. I know working people are worried about the level of illegal migration into this country. The Prime Minister said, a secure border and controlled migration are reasonable demands, and this government is listening and delivering. That is debatable. Digital ID is an enormous opportunity for the UK. It will make it tougher to work illegally in this country, making our borders more secure. Incorrect. If they're asylum seekers, they don't have a right to work. They come in, they apply for asylum, and they go through the asylum process. This is just another form of control on UK citizens who already live here. But he argued that the BRIC card eh, would offer ordinary citizens countless benefits. Citation needed. Like being able to prove your identity to access key services swiftly. We've already got that. It's called a passport or driver's license. Rather than hunting around for an old utility bill. What do you mean old utility? Most people are paperless now, and most people's bank accounts are paperless as well. It's mostly digital. And we don't need that. If we needed a hard copy, which is mostly for government departments, we write to them and say, can you make a printout of this and post it to me? Civil liberties groups have raised concerns over the proposals, with Silke Carlo, the director of Big Brother Watch, brilliant name, warning the system would make Britain less free. I tend to agree. And create a domestic surveillance infrastructure that will likely sprawl from citizenship to benefits, tax, health, possibly even internet data and more. She added, incredibly sensitive information about each and every one of us would be hoarded by the state and vulnerable to cyber attacks. Yes, I do not want the government to have any more power over my life. And yes, people do hack digital infrastructure, government IT system, anyone. They've always went well for us, obviously. Addressing concerns over the government's use of digital IDs, the Culture Secretary, Lisa Nandy, said ministers had no intention of pursuing a dystopian mess. I do not believe her. The Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch, said her party would oppose any push by the government to impose mandatory ID cards on law-abiding citizens. Save me, I'm agreeing with Kemi Badenoch. Ugh. The Reform UK leader, Nigel Farage, also criticised the scheme, which he described as an anti-British card. Quite funny. Writing in the Daily Express, he said, the Labour government's plans to impose digital ID cards on all adults will do nothing to combat illegal immigration. I'm agreeing with Nigel Farage now, this is wrong. But it will give the state more power to control the British people. So in some ways, this is a good thing. 6 million UK citizens signed a petition saying we don't want this. Stop with this legislation, and you know where you can put it. Should we carry on doing digital digital petitions, e-petitions? I believe we should, mostly on major issues like government overreach like this, cutting people's benefits, ones where the fabric of our society can be either completely changed or irreparably harmed, and we wouldn't be able to go back from it. This is one of those times with this legislation. Thank you for listening to this mad Scottish Marxist. Feel free to come over and see me. There we go. I will clip that out and send it to Andrew. Good morning, Mr. E. I've been asked to do a 3 or 4, I think I went slightly over. So I'll clip that section out and send it to another channel because he wants to put more UK streamers, YouTubers into his channel into like a little clip form. Maybe not a clip from a small section. So I've just done mine's. I hope he likes it. Yeah, there is the Hoyle effect. You might have me for a little bit longer. Super Hobby is away doing our shopping, so he is away to Morrison's to buy our things. Oh, sorry if I was ignoring you there. I just wanted to get that bit done. I can't believe I'm going to be on someone else's channel. It's going to be fun. So he's wanting this for next week. Watch this space. Once he's got it all sorted and everything, I will let everyone know. Da, 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 da. Oh my God, we're nearly at 3 million. Say goodbye to children so they can go and get their education. It's a good thing. I hope they have a good day at school. An immediate general election. They won't do that. The polls look fucking shite for Labour. Oh dear God, some of these are dog shit. That's a bit scary. Well, that's just slightly over. So is that one just slightly over? Oh, these aren't. Oh, some of these are good. Hmm. Rural buses. Eesh. My deepest sympathies, Mr. E. Let's see what I've got in my watch later. We can maybe do a couple of short ones. How are you this fine morning, Lefty? Take it away, my left eye. Huh?
If you can't believe
Oh,
then believe me, neither can my left eye. There's political believe what you're seeing here.
right. I will just cover Scotland for the time being for this bit here. Oh, God, I can't make it. This bit right here is Glasgow's where oh God, I'll go into my channel actually. London. Put the volume down, you idiot. Oh, you're in the YouTube chat. Give me a second, I'll go into the YouTube chat. I'll be there momentarily. Once I get it, oh, no. Turn around. Turn. There we go. My channel. Yeah, I'm here. As you guitar guy was making sure you cannot make. Thank you, Stats for Lefties. Look at it. Oh, you. What? Right. Hang on. One, two, three, four. That's, yeah. So, like, here's the different. The what? What is it with you borders? Fucking hell. So these two here, these are two Scottish constituencies essentially. Stubbornly, stubbornly staying Tory. Make it make sense. The party's dead essentially, and they've still got these bits on. I wonder why this area keeps on this bit around here essentially keep voting for the scum. But look at that! Look at it all! How many would it be? 46 out of 55, so we'd have the majority of the Westminster constituencies again. Our high water mark was only having three of them. So one Lib Dem, Alistair Carmichael, Orkney and Shetland, Ian Murray, Lothian East. No, I can't remember. It's one of the ones around Edinburgh. And Alistair Jack in Dumfriesshire and Cumbria, which is this one in here. That was it. Three of them. The rest of them were, that was 56, by the way. The rest of them were all SNP. So that's the high water mark. The closer we get to that, the happier I'll be. But I think at the next general election I might go green. Well, they still keep them. Yeah. I bet that those two will still be fucking Alistair Carmichael trying to get rid of the bastard. But look at this. Look at that. That's two constituencies in the Kingdom of Five. Literally Labour strongholds. Going Lib Dem. Make it make sense. That especially that one. That one. That one right there, where my arrow was pointing on now. That was Gordon Brown's fucking seat. Funny. I can't make it out, but I've got a funny feeling that this still stays Labour. Why? They are ghouls. I do not like the government. But Christ almighty. It's good staying quiet getting those ones. I quite like that. And there's one going green. I mean, it would be 55. Because I'm struggling to see them, I think those 55 seats are all urban. So basically major cities and towns. I mean that. You think people living in the city centre want a better standard of living? Yeah.
If you can't believe what you're seeing here, people, then believe me, neither can my left eye. There's political failures, there's political disasters, and then there's Keir Starmer's Labour Party. What we are currently witnessing is the fastest and sharpest
Let's find
downturn
out
in a
now.
government's public approval that has ever happened in the history of the UK. Losing, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, 386 seats would leave Labour in 5th place, according to a fresh poll from Find Out Now. If any further proof were needed that Keir Starmer is failing to outflank reform on the far right, then notice that the Farage-led Grifters Party PLC's gains exactly match Labour's losses. The scale of this unprecedented crash and burn cannot be
Does, yes.
overstated enough, with only 25...
What?
Yes, 25 seats remaining.
Oh, God!
The Scottish National Party
An image. You went back a bit there, Lefty, getting footage from Spitting Image. Don't get me wrong, a lot of them was quite funny and very pertinent to what was going on in the government back in the 80s and 90s. Look at that, we're at 46. I quite like that. 46 SNP MPs. Bring it back. No, you can't. You can't. And anyway, we've already got receipts from back in the day when he was UKIP. Literally videos exist of him saying what he truly means, what he wants to do. I am here to call out Farage or Manfrog.
would have almost double the number of seats that Labour do, and the Green Party, who continue to hit new heights week on week, would also dwarf Lino with 55.
Can you dig
In fact, Keith and
Warrior.
Co would have fallen so far that by gaining just one seat, the Liberal Democrats would become the main opposition. It looks like Reeves's pre-budget statements didn't do anything to quell the ire of the voting public either. The monotonous and robotic boardroom clichés that she spewed out for half an hour were at times physically painful to endure. She ignored the real solution of taxing the rich, but again used foreboding terms like tough decisions and difficult choices.
See this? This is us.
She couldn't keep a story straight about if the economy is doing well or not, and with derivative slogans on the front of the lectern that hark back to the days of Theresa May,
Strong and stable leadership.
it's easy to see why the only way Labour are heading is down. One more observation about the poll: independents, many of them socialists, and the Workers' Party of Britain would have 17 seats. That's another record high, and it's also the same number as the Tories would have, losing another 100 seats.
Correct, Mr. E. Mhm.
There's no doubt in my mind, though, that Starmer will be forced to
Go
step
get that
down
mug.
early next year.
Oh, God.
But the fight against reform must continue, and for now, it seems two of the so-called legacy parties are staggering on the ropes without an ice cube in hell's chance of winning the next general election. So who do you think might make more gains between now and the next GE? Let us know in the comments below. As always, your feedback's
Greens.
very welcome. Thanks a lot for watching to the end of the video. If you'd like to help the channel out a bit more, then please check out some of our other content and hit various supportive buttons such as like and subscribe. Super thanks are also open, and there's a link to our Buy Me a Coffee page in the description of this video. If you want to go a step further, then hit the join button, and for only 99 pence you can enjoy exclusive perks like members only videos and early viewings, plus
Oh, look. What is that name? Your lass gets everywhere.
lots more, and you get to join the list of awesome people that you can see on your screen right now. As
Ooh,
always, your
bye-bye.
contributions are much appreciated. Thanks again, people. My left eye will be seeing you soon.
Thank you, Lefty. That was fun. I will never get rid of that smell. I know what damn dog smells like. Go. Yeah, guitar. I saw you. How long have you been a member? I've lost track. Am I over a year now, I think? We'll find out the next time Lefty goes live, obviously. Let us check the watch later. It, eh, ooh. How long is that? Oh, it's only 6 minutes. 6, 17, 18. Go. Richard Murphy, everyone.
The British economy has a hole at its heart, created by years of austerity and political denial. Public services are crumbling, investment is missing, and living standards have stagnated. Yet the government insists that the problem is a lack of money, when in fact it's a lack of courage. The so-called black hole in the public finances is a myth
Pass.
used to justify failure.
Good morning.
The black hole is not in the Treasury's accounts, but is to be seen in our hospitals, schools, and local councils. Underinvestment has left the country poorer, sicker, and less secure. The black hole is in our social fabric and not in the Treasury's spreadsheets. Decades of cuts have created scarcity where there should be abundance. Governments that issue their own currency
Fiery yellow
cannot run
orb.
out of money. That's the fact that the Treasury ignore every time that they claim there's a black hole. We cannot have a black hole in the UK because there is always enough money for us to pay our bills, so long as Parliament has approved that payment in advance. The constraint that exists within our economy is about real resources, people, physical resources, ability, and not cash in the bank. When politicians claim there is no money left, they are lying or ignorant. Those are the only two choices we have to make about.
The first part was I was doing a section for a YouTuber for a YouTuber friend. So I'll clip that section out later and send it to him. Andrew Luke, everyone, by the way. So watch out for your last being on an actual channel. That'll be fun. I'm just doing whatever these three here because Super Hubby might be back by about 9 a.m. So in about half an hour, and he'll want to watch the telly and stuff and potter around the house, do some tidying up and shit. And I don't want to get in his way. Plus, I'm trying to get my space colony set up on oxygen not included. Yeah,
what they're saying. Fiscal fear, though, is used to silence public ambition. This narrative was created deliberately. Austerity was sold as responsibility, but in fact, it is plain straightforward economic vandalism. The media has echoed the Treasury's household budget analogy, parrot fashion, day in, day out, talking about maxed out credit cards and other utterly meaningless things. The result of that moral failing
correct,
is that
Richard.
the nation is
Correct.
poorer than it needs to be, and that's what our media should be talking about. What the black hole hides is the fact that the wealth of the few is still growing. But that wealth growth is hiding the insecurity of most people in this country.
I missed you there. Rejoice, comrades. King of Silver River is here. Morning, King.
This myth disguises choice as necessity, pretending that injustice is inevitable. And at the same time, the myth shifts the blame from government to the governed. It keeps power in the hands of those who benefit from scarcity, and it punishes everyone else. But there is a fix that's available. The government could find the money to invest, and I've shown how to in my Taxing Wealth report, amongst many other articles that I have written. The government could find hundreds of billions of pounds by redirecting savings into constructive capital or by taxing the wealthy more. And although it doesn't need that money to spend, it does need to balance the consequences of that spending, and that's why the programs I suggest are important. And with the money that it could raise to balance the consequences of that spending, it could invest in people. It could invest in care and housing, and green infrastructure and education. In other words, all the things that we need to really grow in ways that aren't just about increasing the wealth of the wealthy, but about increasing the well-being of everyone. We could use fiscal capacity to rebuild public services and social trust. We could tax the wealthy to control inflation and rebalance the economy. We could end the pretense that the national debt is a moral problem when it is anything but that, because it's just a savings account. This is what a courageous government would do. Courage means telling the truth. The truth about the government creating money when it spends. And it would mean admitting that austerity was always a choice and not a necessity. In other words, saying the government got it wrong in the past. That is what courage looks like. Admitting mistakes is something that only the courageous do. And the courageous would use fiscal power to serve the public good and not private wealth, which is what is happening now. And that would mean the end of the politics of fear that is actually keeping Britain small. The real black hole in our economy and in our politics is the same. It's the void where political honesty should be. Britain is not broke. It's been broken by design. We can fill the black hole in our politics and in our economy with truth, courage, and care. The money is there. The money is there for whatever it is that we can do. What's missing is the will to use it well.
Thanks for watching this video. If you've enjoyed it, please do click the like and subscribe buttons, because they do genuinely help us spread the word on YouTube. As importantly, could you have a look at the section below this video where it says more, and there you'll find a link to my blog. And if you follow that for the specific link to the blog entry related to this video, you'll find a transcript of this video and lots of other related material, plus a ChatGPT prompt that you could use to write a letter to your MP on the contents of this video, which will turn you into a campaigner, which will be a great thing to do. Finally, if you do appreciate the work we're doing, can you think about giving us a donation? If you'd like to do so, there's a link below, or you can find one on my blog where there's a Ko-fi button saying, please buy me a coffee. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you, Richard.
Domestic Direct Action Group Palestine Action was banned as a terrorist group by then Home Secretary Yvette Cooper in July. Since then, it's been a criminal offence under counter-terrorism law to support the group, with the breaches of that law carrying sentences of up to 14 years in prison. And in the intervening months, we've seen thousands of protesters arrested for doing just that, holding up signs of support in a deliberate flouting of the law. But just a week before Parliament voted on the prescription of Palestine Action, The Times, Britain's paper of record, ran a story. The Times claimed that in the context of public anger at the prescription of the group, the Home Office had revealed it was investigating a link between Palestine Action and everyone's favourite boogeyman, Iran. In that piece, The Times says this of Palestine Action. The group invites donations directly through its website, but it does not publish financial information. It is not a charity, so it is not bound by financial transparency rules. The lack of transparency over who is donating to the group has caused concerns in the Home Office about where it is raising the significant sums it requires for its legal costs. Officials are understood to be investigating its source of donations amid concerns that the Iranian regime, via proxies, is funding the group's activities, given that their objectives are aligned. That story was picked up by other outlets as well. The Daily Mail asked, does Palestine Action's cash trail lead all the way to Iran? And The Spectator also ran an article over a suspect link between Palestine Action and Iran. Big, very big if true, except it's probably not true at all. This is from the latest Private Eye. CMS Strategic has acted as Elbit's UK PR firm for some years. A witness known by I heard Georgia Pickering, CMS's managing director and owner, claiming credit for getting a story into newspapers about Palestine Action, the direct action group that damaged Elbit factories and other premises the group says are linked to the war in Gaza. Now, if you don't know, Elbit Systems is Israel's largest military manufacturer, with several sites in the United Kingdom. Since its formation in the 2020, Palestine Action not only frequently damaged Elbit factories and premises, they appear to have successfully shut at least one of them down. Back in September,
I try to watch when Helena's hosting, and especially if it's Helena and Curtis. Lefty takeover of Bavara.
Elbit shuttered a large site in Bristol that had been subject to dozens of Palestine Action protests, cutting their lease short by 4 years. And Elbit was so frustrated by Palestine Action's actions at their sites that they then lobbied the government to order retrials for activists who'd been acquitted in British courts, according to documents seen by Declassified. So Elbit had every reason to try and lubricate Yvette Cooper's case for proscribing the group, including planting a likely false story about a connection to Iran. It's worth noting that the story came in the Times at the day out after the US bombed Iranian nuclear sites this summer. Pretty fishy stuff, but it gets even fishier. When the Times article first came out, Private Eye had questions over its sourcing. Their column goes on to say this. The story, which first appeared in the Times in June, claimed that the Home Office was investigating Palestine Action over possible Iranian funding. However, when the Eye approached the Home Office at the time, it said it did not recognise that claim. So the Home Office was as mystified as we are by where the Times sourced its story. Now, CMS categorically denies planting the Iranian funding story, but it's worth pointing out that back in 2024, Palestine Action doused CMS's own offices in red paint in response to the sterling work they've done for Israel's #1 killing company. Dahlia, this is quite a claim that's been made by Private Eye. What do you make of it?
Look, whatever you think of Palestine Action, you cannot deny the fact that if you live in a country where a massive corporation can successfully plant very flimsy stories in the press about a protest group and contribute to an environment in which that protest group then becomes criminalized by the state, then you do not live in a country where you have a truly free press, and you do not live in a country where you have true civil liberties. What you have is a press and a political culture that is steeped in clientelism, that sees its main remit as being protecting the interests of the highest bidder, which in this case was Elbit Systems. And that's before you get to the added layer of the fact that this is all happening within the context of a genocide where and the fact that this company is supplying weapons to a country that has been deemed by the international court by international courts to be at plausible risk of committing genocide. We're not even getting to the question of why the hell does a weapons company that is working at the behest of a state like that, why is it operating in Britain? Instead, when you have a press that is willing to sell itself to the highest bidder, you have the lines of accountability go in reverse. The lines of accountability, the questions that should be being asked is, why is this company that is supplying weapons to a state that is at very plausible risk of committing genocide, why are they able to function? Instead, you're like, why is this protest group that is responding to that, whatever you think of their tactics, instead the line of accountability is going down rather than up. And the government are going to hide behind, and the Times as well for that matter, are going to hide behind the idea that Palestine Action is, this fringe group that uses, non-traditional protest methods. Like by non-traditional, I guess, let me say non-mainstream activism methods. And they're going to kind of try to hide behind that sort of sidelining or exceptionalizing of Palestine Action. We had to take this action with Palestine Action because it is an exceptional kind of protest group. But even if you agree with that assessment, Palestine Action is not the only organization or protest group that is being subject to this kind of suppression, particularly around the issue of Palestine. A few days ago, the government, in response and in the context of this kind of hysteria that is being whipped up by the press in collaboration with the companies who have a vested interest in continuing this genocide, this government introduced an amendment not too long, a few days ago, I believe, an amendment to the Crime and Policing Bill, which would restrict repeat protest. Now, that is a clear response to the fact that over the past 2 years, almost every other week, hundreds of thousands of people have taken to the streets in an A to B march, the most mainstream. So it's such a mainstream form of protest that you ask the police permission to do it first. But because that has happened repeatedly, and it has been a thorn in the side of the way in which the British state wants to narrativize how British people feel about Israel. The Keir Starmer wants you to believe that everyone in Britain, is pro-Israel and stands with Israel. But you switch on your television and you look at the hundreds of thousands of people pouring through the streets, and you say, actually, the British people have a much more critical understanding of the situation.
Yes, we do.
But they have no actual means to stop that from happening. So they just introduce an arbitrary amendment that says, well, you can have the right to protest, but we're going to limit the number of times you can protest something. So what we're seeing is that it's not this overall crackdown on civil liberties and this rise of authoritarianism, of an authoritarianist streak within the British state, which always existed but is being particularly heightened right now. It's not just about, or not just impacting these kind of more fringe parts of the movement or these more non-mainstream parts of the movement, but it is impacting even the most mainstream conventional form of protest. And what that goes to show you is two things. Firstly, it shows you that this is nothing to do with choice of tactics or norms around civil disobedience. And it's everything to do with the fact that this rise of civil disobedience is happening in response to the British state's complicity with Israel, and that the point is to crack down on dissent against Israel. And the second thing it shows you is that, we talk a lot on Novara about the risks of an authoritarian reform government. But what we have to see, much like the fact that the Biden administration
There we go. I'm back. Sorry about that. The webcam that I've changed over to, I'm not using the one built into the laptop. I've got an external one which is plugged in.
Administration
Hi on
kept
Dahlia.
ICE intact and funded ICE, laying the groundwork for Trump to then use ICE as a weapon to terrorize.
Good morning, rejoice, comrades. The resident philosopher is here. Morning, Scribby. I just done my wee section for Andrew Luke. I'll get it fixed up and everything and send it to him. Watch out for me on Andrew's channel. Probably next week. Probably. But he'll let me know. You don't worry. So I'm doing normal lifty tech issues, obviously.
People of color,
To be real.
particularly working class people of color, all across the US. In a similar vein, we are seeing the Labour Party laying down the groundwork and the architecture for authoritarianism in this country. And so it's not just a spectre on the horizon, this idea of our civil liberties as we have known them being disappeared. This is actually something that the groundwork is being laid for under a Labour government, under a former human rights lawyer, nonetheless.
An addendum to this story as well, worth pointing out here that the head of the CMS Strategic, Georgia Pickering, is also a current Labour Party representative on Bracknell Forest Council. Also among their staff is another Labour councillor, Kira Lewis, who sits on Waltham Council. And this is how the CMS Strategic website describes her career thus far. Kira joined CMS Strategic in early 2025 with a background in UK politics, geopolitics, and media communications. Kira joined from BICOM, having previously worked for the Labour Party, and before that, Labour First, removing the hard left's influence from mainstream politics. Kira is a councillor in the London Borough of Waltham Forest, holds a BA in War Study from King's College London, and is studying a MA in Politics and Contemporary History, researching the shared status of Jerusalem. Outside of work, Kira enjoys cooking, Soul Cycle, and is a fan of West Ham. I mean, make of that what you will, but not only has she worked for BICOM, that is, the Britain-Israel Communications and Research Centre, and the Labour Party, she's also a West Ham supporter.
I'm back again.
Did you know that you pay twice every time you use the bus? You pay once for your fare, but then you're paying again when the government uses public money to subsidise these private bus companies. Companies that only really want to run the most profitable routes and need to be given even more money to run the ones that are really socially essential. They're not interested in making sure that our communities are connected.
Hang on.
To run the most profitable routes and need to be given even more money to run the ones that are really
That's 12, by the way, everyone. Hello, Service 12. "14 minutes from Bridge of Fern to Canal Street. The road's not bad. It used to be that long. By the way, Perth is my hometown. And it's got one of the best bus services as ranked by passengers. Here where I live in the north of Glasgow, we've lost lots of bus services. Routes have just been slashed because first suck. And they increase, they have a licence from the Scottish Government because I've got my bus pass, and they go into negotiations with the Scottish Government saying we want blah 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 every time. this cripple gets on a bus. It's not what it's not a full fare what someone, just a general person getting on and paying for a single or whatever. So every time that I get onto a bus, they agree a set amount and it keeps on going up and up and up and up. And they still keep on slashing fucking routes, blocking people off from getting from one part of the city, the north, down to the bottom end of the city centre, down to the bottom. We used to get a bus straight down to the bottom half of the city centre. It got cut. Oh, unsustainable. Not enough passengers. Service levels too time demanding. The roads are blah blah blah. No, bollocks. You're talking shite first.
Socially essential. They're not interested in making sure that our communities are connected. These companies, some of them owned by billionaires, owned by some of the richest people in Scotland, are only interested in making a quick buck. And we think that's wrong. The Scottish Greens delivered free bus travel for young people. We want even more people to be able to use the bus for free because that helps families save money and it tackles the climate emergency. But critically, we want to bring our bus network back under public control. All public transport should be ran in the interest of the public first. At the moment, we have a bus network that's ran to maximise private profits first and puts passengers second. That's why Green MSPs and councillors are pushing to change that. We are going to bring Scotland's bus network back under the control of the people of Scotland.
Based. Thank you, Ross, my lovely little ginger twin. My branch has got an emergency an EGM because I don't know if you noticed, there have been some defections to your party from the Scottish Greens. The councillors here in Glasgow and a few organisers as well who are part of the Glasgow branch, the one that I'm part of. So they're going to be having one in their main office in the city centre, or you can join online through Zoom again. We'll see what happens, see how I'm feeling. It's at the end of the month because we need new campaigners in the upcoming election for Holyrood and the following year for the council elections, because we're going to have to replace those three that defected to your party from the Scottish Greens. Fun. Watch this space. Ah! Lucky you, Scribby. Lucky you. Am I pushing it a little bit further? Hmm. I don't know what to cover. Would anyone like me to cover anything specifically? And Jane's saying that Super Hubby's been gone for about an hour and 20 minutes. He'll probably be back soon. You know what? I think I will just end it there to make sure that I'm not going to be annoying him. Oh, I've been going for exactly an hour, which I thought would take me to do that short segment, then maybe cover a couple of other things, which I have done. I've accomplished a lot in the hour. Praise be for your lass. She's getting better at this old malarkey. Let's see who I can read out to. I have no idea who goes at this time of the morning. I usually finish up between 3 and 4. And we've got the Dab Father. We've got Unelectable Airwaves. We have Images. Images is going. We have Sad Girl. She's still going. My gosh, she'll be knackered. We have USA Home. We have Thor over at Pirate Software. We have Yala Yasmin and Peganox. Hmm. You know what? I think I'll just finish up. Perfect. Super Hubby has returned from doing the grocery shopping. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Oh, stay hydrated. Self-care is good care. Take your meds if you have any to take. Stay based. Be Palestine. And I'll catch you all later. Bye.